Oh, I'm sorry. Very cool.
All right, I'd like to start planning commission meeting Wednesday, September 27th, 2023, and it is now 6:39. Call to order, Mr. Kenny.
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Reyes, Mr. Burke.
Here.
Mr. Price,
Here.
Secretary Anderson, Vice Chair Colunian, Chairman Flynn is here. Mrs. Elderkin is excused tonight. We have a quorum of 8. Emergency evacuation, go out the doors you came in, left to right, take you out to the front and to the back. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
Okay, I have approval of minutes. 5.1, August 23rd, 2023. I have a motion on that. I have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Kinney. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, another approval of minutes. 5.2, September 12th, 2023, site walk minutes. Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second by Mr. Reyes. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, we need an amendment on this. Sherry Elderkin is not listed, and she was present.
Okay, so noted. We'll add Sherry Elderkin to the site walk list. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, recommendation to zoning. Special use permits. Custom Ironwork, 1600 Flat River Road, owner BJK Realty and Company. Byron Grace, Jacqueline Grace, applicant same, requesting a special use permit to increase the footprint of a pre-existing non-conforming use, 13,840 square feet building by 800 square feet additionally. A 9,800 square foot structure is proposed requiring no zoning relief. Go ahead, Mr. Bonero.
The elder partner, Tom Cronin, who was homesick this evening. I didn't find this out until this morning that I was handling these matters, so bear with me if I don't have all the answers for you, but I'm going to try to do my best. Any event, I want to thank your planner for the report that you guys have and I have. It reminds me of the old days with Paul Sprague and Russ Grossman. They're worth its weight in gold. They didn't have to spend 4 hours going through the file. We're asking for a recommendation to your zoning board. The property is zoned industrial 1, it's right down the street from here. It's 3.36 acres. And there's a commercial building which Brian and his wife operate the ironworks at. There are several other buildings to the rear. Those are just rented out. We're proposing to construct a 800-foot office to the right side of the building as you face it, or the west side if you're using a compass. It's a special use permit because the existing building does not meet the required zoning codes. Again, it's an industrial zone. There are setbacks, but if you look at the property to the right of us where Seascape is, their equipment and everything is backed up to our property line. And in fact, we have a letter which I'll introduce by the neighbor indicating that they have no objection to the proposal that is before you. I think in the long and short of it is, when you get to the end of your report, I think the planner says it well, that the proposed use will not alter the general character of the area and be considered compatible with the abutting uses. And it's consistent with your comp plan. And again, the granting of the variance and the special use permit is not going to affect the health, welfare, and safety. There was a request for, I don't know if it was by the planning department or not, more of a site of what it was going to look like in the front. And I received this today from our client and their designer. These are not building plans, this is just what it's looking like. So from the front of the building, I think it's gonna have a
Thank you.
good view. Not gonna be, look like it's just an addition and it's pretty much straightforward. And again, I apologize, I just got this letter, Tom had it, I didn't get a chance to make any copies of it. But this is the manager of Seascape that indicates that they have no objection to the recommendation from you to the zoning board. And that's pretty much all I have. If I can answer any of your questions, my client is here. If you can answer any of your questions, be glad to do so.
I'll just note for the record that James Wilkinson, the manager of Seascape, has no problem with this. If you're looking at Seascape from 117, it's on the left,
No, if you're looking at the building,
behind.
it's on the right side. Seascape's property is all to the right.
Okay.
Okay.
Does anybody on the board have any questions for the applicant? Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Venero, is this going to be used for the business or are
Yes,
they
it is.
renting it? So there's no rental, it's
No.
all part of the
No,
business?
We employ about 25 people. We need some more office space. And that's pretty much what it is.
So it's not going to be sublet out or anything?
No,
like that?
if you look at the sheet that I just put in, I think there's a plan in your package or what I just gave you showing what is going to be in there. They're
I
pretty
got
much
it.
just
Yep.
offices for our employees.
Yep. Okay, thank you. That's it, Mr. Flynn.
Thanks. Anybody else?
I guess my only question is, there's not, that's grass area behind there. There's no like septic design or anything. I don't. No, there's nothing. Everything's in the front.
You want to come up just for the record? Name and address, please.
Brian Grace, owner of 1600 Flat River Road, Custom Ironworks, my wife Jacqueline Grace. So the sewer's in, the sewer's gonna hook up in the front of the office. The whole office is gonna get knocked down, all redone, the whole face, add office spots. It's old. It's been the 60s. We're expanding. We're a very busy company, do a lot of work in Boston. So we need more office space.
Yeah, I had the aerial shot of it and I just saw all asphalt.
Yeah.
Where that, where the right of way is. All right.
Yeah, the right of way, I own the property in the back too.
Yeah.
So all the
Okay,
property in the back I
don't know
own.
what was back
The 9,600 square foot storage building is gonna be for custom ironworks
Yeah,
that we
I
need
saw
to, you know?
in the-
Yep.
That'd be nice.
Thanks for expanding.
So.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Go ahead.
So the matter before us, though, is just a 20 by 40 addition that's shown on the plan, right?
Yes.
Everything else meets.
Everything else is.
Meet the zoning.
Yep.
I wasn't quite sure where that fit into this, but it
So
doesn't,
that's just the site plan of what's there right now
of what's there now.
and the proposal on what we're doing is the right side of the building closest to the 117.
Right. So is this building right here that says proposed floor plan, is that for this, is that for this existing building?
Yes, it is. This is the new addition.
This is
Right
already,
there.
this is already existing,
Right.
so that's the whole new layout and design. of-
That's this.
That's, no,
Up here.
that's right here, right there. This is the addition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
This
Yeah.
is what you're looking
So we're looking at the plan.
This office is already.
This
existing.
site plan.
This-
No, I'm not sure if it's in the back.
Cody, do we have anything you can bring up on the screen or we don't?
yeah. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I
Yes.
can't match this floor plan to this.
Let's see
plan.
what we have. We can bring up.
You just
This
Go
floor
like
plan
this
is the
here.
building like this is.
Okay, this is your new
Yeah.
addition. That's it right here. That's
This is there. This is.
is this.
Oh.
Okay.
All right, this exists, but so does all this.
Right,
back here. Okay, now I'm all set.
That's
The
what you're
building-
seeing there is the fabrication shop
Yeah.
and all that.
Okay, I'm good.
You okay with that, Dave? And we're just looking at,
Yeah,
All right, no problem.
I will, yeah. What it was is I wanted to see where this proposed floor plan fit in with the applicant's overall sketch on the property. And what I didn't realize is this proposed floor plan was only of a portion of the building that's shown. So I was trying to match that up.
For the addition on a couple of years ago over there, this is, you're looking at. That's what you're doing. Oh, this is-
No, no.
No.
Don't confuse people. Yeah. Yeah. So the proposed yeah. So basically, a significant portion of that building is not being modified at all.
Just
It's
the interior.
addition and then the interior of the
Right.
front portion of the building.
Exactly.
Okay. Right. I'm good. Thank you. The issue really comes down to whether or
Go
not.
ahead, go ahead.
You have in front of you is a layout plan of 40 by 20 expansion that is verified on the plan that is online right now
Yes.
in front of the building, so it's flash. Correct?
That's correct.
Plus a portion of the existing building, but not the entire thing. And that's why I was confused.
This is right. Do that. Basically, so, they want the front to be, redesigned.
I'm just concerned about someone watching. That's all.
Yeah, no problem.
But I think we're covered.
I was just concerned about somebody watching.
Just we want to get it right.
No.
That's why you're here.
This is only a recommendation.
Yep.
At the zoning board, I assume they'll.
Right, again, we just got those today, so, I'll have Tom supplement his package so that the members have it prior to the hearing.
Go ahead, Mr.
So
Rich.
to clarify further, the plan that says proposed building 9,800 square feet is not part of this proposal. Just the part labeled 20 by 40 addition, 800 square feet.
Correct.
Okay.
We got it.
Okay.
Anybody else? Question? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a favorable motion for special use permit and dimensional variance. Owner BJK Realty Inc., applicant same, address 1600 Flat River Road. Assessors plot 60, lot 12, zone industrial 1. Existing use of the commercial building. Same use with addition, the proposed application. Use the mic. The proposed application. Where is it? He's seeking a special use permit to construct an 800 square foot addition on the northwest corner of the building. 7 foot from the side property line where 30 foot is required, which is the dimensional variance.
Thank you.
You incorporate the plans report.
Yep, and I like to incorporate the staff report as written.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second by Mr. Rage. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
I was getting.
Okay, 6.2, Page Associates Water Tank, 0 Page Drive, owner. Woodlands Homeowners Association, CO, Elizabeth Fortier, President, DBA Page Associates, applicant same, requesting a special use permit to replace their existing 10,000 gallon water tank with a new 10,000 gallon tank, AP 65 lots 46, 53 zone RR2.
Thank you.
Just name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Steve Combe. I'm a professional engineer registered in the state of Rhode Island. I work for Northeast Water Solutions, and that's at 567 South County Trail, Exeter, Rhode Island. I am here tonight on behalf of the Woodlands Homeowners Association, Elizabeth Fortier, President, doing business as Page Associates. to request a favorable recommendation to be heard by the Coventry Zoning Board for a special use permit and dimensional relief associated with replacing the existing 10,000-gallon water tank with a new 10,000-gallon domestic water tank. So right here, position this great. It's a picture of Page Associates as it is now. This tank that's in question. I'm gonna flip to the existing conditions plan. So this application is for AP 65 lot 4653, which is in the RR2 zone. These two lots are under common ownership. The existing tank is located entirely on lot 53, and it serves as an equalization tank for the Page Community Public Water System. There are 34 homes in the Page Drive community. So it's regulated as a public water system by the Rhode Island Department of Health. Because it's more than 25 year-round residents. Additionally, it's more than 15 service connections. The applicant of this project has utilized to enhance and upgrade their existing water system. The applicant for this project has utilized a variety of state programs to create a design to upgrade the system, which was built in the 50s. NWSI, which is my company, Northeast Water Solution, has been working with Page Community for the entire time. And the water upgrades that Page initially designed and bid to refurbish this existing tank, right? So they were going to sandblast it, paint it, reaffix, do some welding onto the ladder, that kind of changes to the tank. When the contractor provided the change order, basically saying that we could replace the tank, which would give us two distinct benefits. The first is we could construct a new tank while keeping the existing tank in use. This way, we don't have to mess with any water outages. There's no problems in terms of anyone losing service. And when the new tank is complete, we can raise the old tank and we just flip a valve to make the transition over. Additionally, the community would see a benefit on the useful life of the new tank versus refurbishing an old tank that's already 68 years old. So they would get about 50 years of useful life from a new tank versus 20 for around the same cost. So they're going to be making an investment, try to have the investment pan out so they can have water as long as possible. I'm going to flip to sheet 2 here. So I just want to mention that there was an informal meeting at the Page Drive community where they were presented the two options, and they did choose informally voted to have to move forward with the new tank rather than refurbishing the old. This is the location of the new tank. It borders lot 46 and 53. The proposed tank is horizontal and therefore will have a lower profile and be less visually disruptive than the existing tank. You know, I think it's hard to see this tank from outside the community anyway, but I think it's good to know. And in your packet, there is a detail of what the new tank will look like. So I'm here before you for a special use permit. The equalization tank isn't specifically mentioned in the use table for the zoning regs. However, working with Doug and Kerry, the zoning agent, it was determined that we would use water tower and this would require a special use permit. This is not a water tower in my mind. It's not elevated. There's no pressure component. You know, pressure is provided to the community through a system of pumps within the pump house, the existing pump house. So the height of the tank is about 11 feet. The length of the tank is 17 feet, the proposed tank, and the width of the tank is about 11 feet as well. So a water tower would require a special use. This is not a water tower. This is an equalization tank. Additionally, we're requesting dimensional relief. As I mentioned, 46 and lots 46 and 53 are in the RR2 zone. And with looking at the RR2 zone on sheet 2 of 2, on the top section here, you can see that the side yard setbacks cross each other. The front yard setbacks almost at the street line. And so the rear yard setbacks almost at the street line. Front yard setbacks good ways into the site. So this would be a non-buildable lot by the RR2 zone standards. So we're requesting relief, dimensional relief, because of the unique shape, size of this lot and the zone it's in. So front yard setback, we're requesting 7 feet of relief for a minimum setback of 45, changing the minimum setback from 45 feet to 38 feet. For a side yard setback, we're requesting 44 feet of relief, reducing the setback from 50 to 6 feet. And for the rear yard, we're requesting 66 feet of relief, reducing the existing setback of 90 to 24 feet. I am happy to answer any questions from the board or the public. I think that investing in a new tank is a very prudent decision by the community, and they want to have clean water and a volume and capacity for a long period of time. This concludes my brief presentation. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Would you be removing the old tank
Yes, sir.
once this is constructed?
Yes.
Okay, to me, it's kind of health and safety. You don't have really another option for water. There's no Kent County water there. And it's not really set up for individual wells, because it's kind of a land condo, right? Well, it used to be the old Nike site, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think that individual wells would be possible
Yeah.
because of, they are small lots, kind of like you're seeing. And there's a 100-foot setback anyway, where you wouldn't want to have a septic or anything in that. So.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? for the applicant?
There's some shared septic systems in there too.
Yeah.
So I've been through there.
Mhm.
I see the project progressing. Or is it a state grant? I see the sign out on Town Farm Road.
Yeah, this is through the state revolving fund. They're utilizing the infrastructure bank.
Pretty cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I've been seeing the progress.
Anybody else?
I guess, why does the dimensional variance come into play if this isn't actually a residential dwelling? I mean, the non-conforming use is the tank itself. And I just want to be careful because I have no problem with the plan, but I mean, if we're going to make a favorable recommendation to the zoning board, it's not so much for the dimensional relief, but it's continue to use what otherwise would be considered a residential lot for a private water system to feed the abutting residences. I mean,
Public
Just for
water
the-
system.
yeah,
Public
water system. So that's kind of my way of thinking. Again, not having any issues with it. I just want to make sure we're in the right arena.
Yeah, to take a big step back, in a lot of ways, this is a utility. It's a utility that still amounts to a structure in the setback, and the structure itself does trigger the special use permit. It does trigger dimensional relief. There are a lot of ways in which I wish that a utility structure did not trigger this scale of relief. I wish there was a carve out in state law for utilities to say that they might have a different form of review. Unfortunately, we're not there. And even though we explored that concept, there is not a carve out, and there are in the right arena. We do have to put this through its paces in the same way that we would a house or a structure or an expansion to a structure. So, but yeah, and then the idea of a special use permit is triggered here. That's what brings it to you. Typically, when we have something that's both a special use permit and a dimensional variance, we bring both to you just so you can see the operation of how they work together.
Okay, so technically the dimensional variance is just, it's there, but the special use permit in my mind seems to be the bigger
It
lift here.
is, it is. And in this case, I think he makes a good argument, which is that, what they're providing is a water supply tank, which is a little different than maybe what our code envisioned for a water tank that is heightened and
Correct.
pressurized. This is
Yeah.
lower.
Right.
I do think it's fair to say this is an improvement for their current conditions based on the use of the utility, but it also could be argued it's an improvement in terms of the visual impact to the surrounding area.
No doubt, no doubt.
So in a lot of ways, I wish that there were carve outs in state law to take utility types of projects like this from getting caught up in the same type of thing if someone wanted to build a house in their setback, but here we are. And then my advice, just like you did on the last one, when you have something in front of you that it's both a special use and dimensional, you might as well you got it in front of you, make it clear to the zoning board. We have a positive recommendation on both.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Doug.
Yep, you're welcome.
Appreciate it. Anybody else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
This is for a special use permit and dimensional variance. The owner is Woodland Homeowners Association. The applicant is the same. Address is 0 Page Drive, AP 65, lot 46 and 53, zone RR2. The existing use is a water tank and the proposed use is the same. The purpose of the application, the applicant is seeking a special use permit and a dimensional variance to install a new water tank. I am going to put forward a favorable recommendation for a special use permit and a favorable recommendation for a dimensional variance. I will include the findings of fact of the special use permit and the findings of fact for the dimensional variance and include the planning director's report in my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. I have a motion. I have a second.
I'll second it.
I have a second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good luck. Okay, next we have Angelino Additions, 567 Main Street, owner Antonio Angelino. Applicant same, requesting a special use permit to increase the footprint of a pre-existing non-conforming single-family home by adding a 12 by 24 living space addition and a 26 by 26 garage, AP 104 lot 1 zone, zone industrial 2. Go ahead, Mr. Bonero.
Yeah, for the record, John Bernero, an attorney in Coventry, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant. This matters before you, similar to the other one's recommendation to the zoning board. The house in question, as your planner sets forth, was probably built in the 1880s. There are 3 little houses on the river, and the location on Main Street is the Phoenix section of Main Street in Coventry, not the one up by the old police station. It's across the street pretty much from Riverview Nursing Home. There were 3 little houses there. Why it's zoned industrial, I have no idea, except going back, there was probably a strip of land coming up, and I forgot the Lincoln Avenue. Coming up was a mill, and there was some other properties attached, and I think they just took these 3 little lots and put them in as an industrial zone. Right across the street, zone 20 single family. But in any event, it is what it is. I can't change the zoning. My client owns the property, which has on the first floor 736 square feet. The finished attic, quote unquote, is about 200 and some odd square feet. It's a very tiny place, no garage. My client, prior to hiring our office, prior to consulting with Tom, did some work on the property with no permit. Okay, for that, he was rightfully cited to the municipal court and paid a fine. He also proceeded before the zoning board by himself. Tom wasn't here, and as most lawyers say, he who represents yourself as a fool for a client. And I think that goes a long way here. What was done by him was not right, and I'm not going to sit here and try to justify what he did. I'm asking for a mea culpa, and that's basically it. Going forward, he is going to come in, do the right thing, get the permits, get the inspections done. The goal is to get an additional bedroom. We're going to have to go into DEM to get the new septic system, OWTS or OTWS. It confuses me with the alphabet soup. But in any event, the variance is what we're going for. We are not getting any closer to the lot lines or rear lines of the river. It's pretty much a left and right process. We have physical access to the property. There's off-street parking. And again, there were 2 other homes, very, very similar in nature. It's not in violation of your comprehensive plan. And again, it's just, we need additional living space to make it livable. 700 square feet is just not cutting it in this day and age. And again, I think it's something that is going to rehabilitate the area. There were several homes across the street that were very similar in size, and over the years, if I recall, were all upgraded, modernized, and it's a nice little area. A lot of us don't know that that's part of Coventry, but you gotta go to West Warwick first to get to that area. In any event, if there's anything I can possibly add to you, I would be glad to do so.
No, appreciate you clearing that up, because I
Yeah.
know there was a cease and desist on that. That
Yeah.
was in front of us last year. So I appreciate you
Yeah.
clearing that up. So you answered all my questions. Is there anybody else have any questions for the applicant on this project?
Yeah, just from.
Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Barrett, how you doing? For my own knowledge, it seems like the zoning board just, denied it because of, it just seems like the measurements are really small changes. I just don't, it was splitting hairs there, or was there something else?
I don't know, again, we did not represent them before the zoning board. Okay, I don't want to say the zoning board acted with malice, but I'll leave that point.
No.
Bobby
Anything
Crow
else?
would shoot me.
Anybody else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a favorable motion, Mr. Flynn. So I'll make a motion for a special use permit and dimensional variance. Antonio Angelino and Cheryl Angelino, same for the applicant, 567 Main Street. Assessors plot 104, lot 1, zone 12 industrial, single family dwelling with addition as described by Mr. Bonero for a variance to the zoning board favorable and include the director's report as a favorable.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
I'll say, oh, go ahead.
Second by Mr. Ray's. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, we have another recommendation zoning. LaCroix, 21 Hill Farm, owner Joseph LaCroix, applicant LaCroix Properties. CO Joseph LaCroix, requesting a special use permit to convert existing structure in a two-bedroom, single-family home, AP 318 lot 215 zone, Village Rural Commercial.
I could have stayed right here. Again. for
It's
the
like
record,
old
John
times,
Bonero, Represent Joe LaCroix. The property, as you know, was in the village rural commercial, a split use. There are several single-family homes up in the area. There's some duplexes. And all we're doing is taking a little commercial building that is about 1,080 square feet. And I think there's a pizza parlor in it now that's not going to make it for us as far as going forward in terms of being marketable. The lot is a good size. It's 31,798 square feet. And again, we just want to convert it into a two-bedroom home. There is need for this type of housing in the area, and it pretty much conforms to the area. The utilities and everything else, nothing different. There's off-street parking. And again, the character of the area is going to remain exactly the same. There's a mixed use and there's nothing to be really different, in my opinion. And basically, I think your planning department, rightfully so, had no concerns and recommends it. So I'm asking for a favorable recommendation.
Thanks, Sean. I don't have any concerns with anybody else.
When it's a pizza place, that's a pizza.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman. Oh, I don't get yelled at. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a favorable motion for a special use permit. Owner Joseph LaCroix, applicant same, 21 Hill Farm Road. Assessed plot 318, lot 215, zone VRC. It's a vacant building. Proposed use will be a single-family residence. Seeking a special use permit to convert the 1,080 square foot building into a single-family residence. And I'd like to include the staff report in my recommendation.
I have a motion by Mr. Kenny. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Ray's. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good night.
John. Nice seeing you, John. Okay, next we have new business and discussion. Let me find it here.
Old business.
Oh, hold on. Okay. Sorry about that. Old business for discussion. Pre-application, CNM plat, owner, CNM Realty LLC. Applicant same, proposed 3-lot subdivision with 2 existing single-family dwellings. AP 5 lot 2.1, zone R20, 437 Hopkins Hill Road.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, I am not John Bernero. I'm sure you'll be happy to hear from someone besides him this evening. My name is Jeff Caffrey. I'm an attorney with Resnick and Caffrey, offices at 300 Centerville Road in Warwick. As you indicated, we're here tonight on a minor subdivision, looking for a 3-lot minor subdivision. Property is located on the westerly side of Hopkins Hill Road, where it intersects with Mishnock Road. It consists of approximately 3.8 acres. At present, there are 2 dwelling units on the 1 lot. And what we're looking to do is to subdivide the parcels so that the 2 dwelling units are on conforming 20,000 square foot lots. The resulting lots will meet all of the dimensional requirements for the zone insofar as the setbacks and square footage is required. Frontage will also be met. Access will be by individual driveways coming in off of Hopkins Hill Road. The remaining parcel will be approximately 2.8 acres, which will be developed at some point in time in the future. At this point in time, we don't really have any plans for the property because we're going through the process of determining wetlands and having the biologist take a look at it. So in essence, just looking to make the 2 existing lots conforming and splitting off an additional 2.8 acre parcel of land. The recommendation from the staff report was something that we were in favor of. We had no objections to that. And also they note in there that at some point in time, we will probably, or most likely, will be requesting a waiver of the sidewalks. Having said that, I really have nothing else to add. So if the board has any questions, happy to answer that. And with me also is John Mulhern of CNM, if you have any questions.
Just a
for the
comment, you're making a non-conforming lot into a conforming.
That's
3
correct.
lots, so you're really cleaning it up.
Good,
in my
absolutely, absolutely.
That's all I had. Does anybody else have any questions? Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Just the staff report, just has recommendations. Do you have the staff report?
I do, yeah.
Okay, and you agree with or just you've read those recommendations in the back?
Yes, I have no issue with the record.
Okay, just making sure. Thanks.
Anybody else? Well, this is a pre-application, so the next step would be a preliminary
Correct.
or a minor. I don't have to put that in the motion, correct? Okay. All right. I think we're good. We'll see you at preliminary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Now I can get the 8.1. So new business for discussion. 8.1, pre-application plan site walk, Shippey Farm plat, owner Ralph Shippey, trust, CO Ralph Shippey. Applicant same, proposed 2-lot subdivision with 1 existing residence, AP 318 lot 120, zone RR2. And the address is 770 Hill Farm Road. Name and address, please, for the record.
Michael McCormick, Alpha Associates Limited, professional land surveyor. I'm not John Bernero. Thanks for having us tonight. Tonight, we're here on a pre-application plan, so we're just gonna, everybody knows what that is, so we're just gonna review, maybe get a little conversation back and forth.
Yep.
But the site in general is, I don't know, can we pull up the aerial map so we can all get an idea of where this is? I think, yeah. If not, no problem. We're on the east side of Hill Farm Road, which is a state highway. On the south and east side is Shady Hill Road. If you look on the, I'll turn those 90 degrees. All right. So on the west side of this site, we've got quite a bit of wetland complexes. There's an existing residence that falls far within the front setback line. That structure was built around, per the title cards, around 1880, 1890. So we've got an existing non-conforming structure. We've got wetlands to the south. We've got wetlands to the north. Cumulates to the shaded area down there, which is an actual flood zone that was updated relatively recently. The intention of on the east side, far east side of this project, we go from very tilly soils coming down from Hill Farm Road down to outwash soils on the bottoms. Those are little ponds and wetlands in the bottoms over there, but you can tell by the wetland flagging that was conducted on the east side, we've got quite a bit of land, I would say in excess of 25 acres of pretty much a buildable outwashing land. I don't think we have 10-foot water tables over there, but we probably got 5-foot water tables over there. So the purpose of the application is very simple. We want to cut a 2-acre lot out of the southwest corner of this and not do anything else with the rest of the site. After this is approved, there will be literally no changes to this site whatsoever. We have no intention of developing this piece in the back whatsoever at this time. If we do, we'll come back and see it. But right now, all we want to do is cut this lot off. So when we get into preliminary, and I'm looking at the staff report, the engineers didn't have too much to say on it. DPW had something with respect to a physical alteration permit, but we've already got a driveway in there. We're not going to need that. It's existing. That's what it is. We're going to kind of, unfortunately, kind of tidal wave you with waivers as far as just because of the situation. Landscaping plan, it's existing. Nothing's going to change. Sidewalks, anything else. We'd even like to, I think it's pretty much common sense that I can get a house on the remaining lot somewhere. Is that kind of obvious to everybody? As we're kind of having an open conversation, I'd like to waive at preliminary, ask for a waiver for even a soil evaluation or a septic design for that lot. I don't think that's a lot to ask. I don't know if any of you have been down there, but you know, we're going to ask for a lot of waivers, just for the simplicity of it and just to keep costs down. So again, the only thing that we're gonna do is cut a 2-acre lot off, put that house on, let it go. The owner of the property, Ralph Shippey, his family has owned this for over 100 years. They have no intention to develop it in the near future or whatever. And again, if we have to come back, we'll come back with any kind of proposal to develop the rest of that lot. I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have or open a conversation.
It's a conforming 2-acre lot.
Yes, yes. Conforming by area, the building.
Right.
It is what it is.
Anybody else have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, are you suggesting that the remainder is suitable for at least one house?
Yes,
No doubt about that. No question in your mind.
none whatsoever.
Okay. Just the reason I asked.
Yeah, I'll be
is you
asking
Cut
for
the
that.
2 acres out,
Yeah,
that goes, then the rest of it goes to tax sale in the town. That's why I asked.
well, I'll buy it at tax sale.
Okay, that's what I meant. I wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Hey, I guess we're at pre-app, see a preliminary.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Oh, one more thing,
Yeah,
before
no
we
problem.
close that thing. Even there's an older survey on it. We will verify all the land evidence records. Class 1 boundary. We intend to just do along the frontage, the side, and this lot. The rest will be class 4. Again, we're not changing anything. The new lot will be class 1 surveyed, monument set. Everything up to
I have
snuff.
no issue with that.
Very good. All right.
I think we're good.
Thank you very much.
See you at preliminary. Thank you. Okay, next we have a preliminary plan minor subdivision. 1 Ken Ray Drive plat. Owners FXS Construction, applicant same, applicant proposes 2-lot minor subdivision with 1 existing house and 1 garage, AP 45, lot 5, zone VMC, 1 Ken Ray Drive.
Evening, Attorney David Johnson for the applicant, office at 2363 Post Road in Warwick. So we are, as you said, we're seeking a minor subdivision to create 1 additional lot. It's plat 45 lot 5. It's 29,700 square feet. Currently contains a single family. It's a bit of a L-shaped lot as it comes, kind of follows the corner of Ken Ray Drive as it comes around. Basically seeking the creation of 2 lots, a rectangle and a square. Both would be
fully conforming with the dimensional requirements of the zone. The current lot is served by public water, the current house, I should say, is served by public water and an OWTS system. The new lot will be served with a 20-foot wide easement for public hookups to water and sewer, which exists in Main Street. So that would be, in future development, that would be public water, public sewer. We are requesting 2 waivers as part of this application. One is the curbing and the sidewalks. There's no curbing and sidewalks nearby. There's nothing to tie into, so it would be what we call an island of that curbing and sidewalks, which is something DPW at least tries to avoid. The other is street trees. That I did read the planner's report, which recommended a planting of a single street tree on Kenray Drive in front of the existing garage, which we're happy. Sounds perfectly reasonable, and we're happy to comply with that. The existing garage, there was some talk at the pre-application meeting about what we're doing with that existing garage. The existing garage sits well within the building envelope for what would be a single family. Single family is allowed there by a special use permit. So I would think the probably highest and best use of that garage is to become an accessory structure on that lot, which would, if there was going to be a single family developed there. There's also other uses in that VMC zone, which are allowed by right, antique shops, floor shops, things of that nature, that could be utilized for. So we'd like to keep that garage with the intent to identify a future use within, I believe it was 90 days of the recording of the final plan, which is something I've discussed with the applicant at length, and he is perfectly comfortable with determining that at that point. So that's really it as far as what I have this evening. Happy to answer any questions. Unfortunately, the applicant is under the weather. He wasn't able to come down this evening, but happy to answer any questions.
Well, just for clarification, that's the location is the Payne Field.
Yes, exactly. Directly across the
road
street.
that loops around.
Yep,
Just so
exactly.
Everybody knows where that location is. It does not trigger a special use permit.
Not at this moment in time. The applicant could have chosen to put a plan on this, a house on this plan and do it at once. The applicant's not ready to put that house on the plan. To be honest, once they put a house on the plan and they get the zoning board approval, they have a 1-year clock to build that house. And they know they want to break the lot off. They know that's their intent. They're just not in a position to start that clock. So, and what's in front of you right now, the only uniqueness about it is the garage being left. Staff felt it was fair to give 90 days because that garage actually is not a bad looking structure. It could have a useful life beyond this, to ask that it be removed, where it could have a useful life as a garage to a new single family dwelling that could be built there. There's some utility, and then 90 days gives them the ability to seek that. It also gives us an enforceable time frame where if they record and within 90 days it's not there, you know, this isn't something that could go on for months and years where there's an accessory structure everyone's forgotten about. So we thought that was a fair ability to give them some wiggle room to reuse it, but also gives us an enforceable time frame to act upon.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
How close are you to cemetery?
So the cemetery abuts, it would be on parcel A, the existing structure. There wouldn't be any work near that cemetery. The only work that would be done near there would be on that utility easement, which is on the west side. I believe it's about 30 to 50 to 60 feet or so away from the boundary line of that cemetery. That's the property line. The cemetery itself is inside of that. So the cemetery is marked by a wall. I'm not a surveyor. I'm not exactly sure where that stone wall is relative to that property line, but we're certainly not doing anything within 25 or even 50 or so feet of that cemetery.
You all set, Mr. Reyes? Anybody else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for preliminary plan application.
Got it. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the preliminary plan for the 2-lot minor subdivision without a street creation known as the Ken Ray Drive plat. The owner applicant being FSX Construction, at the property being located at 1 Ken Ray Drive, that assesses plat 45 lot 5 in the VMC zone. Currently consists of 0.66 acres or 29,704 square feet. The existing use is a single family house. The proposed use is a single family house. However, it's going to be subdivided into 2 lots, leaving the garage on the abutting lot as shown on the plan that was submitted. My motion is predicated on the information that's contained in the staff report that we have in front of us and the plan that was submitted, so I'd like to incorporate that into the motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Clooney and I have a second. Second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, director's report.
For the director's report, I don't have anything specific, although we certainly had a busy meeting last night. I wanted to provide the opportunity for any board members that had feedback, questions, wanted to discuss that. Obviously, I offered to everyone that attended last night that within a week's time, if you wanted to send me an email, that would help give us direction. I think that will be helpful. I leave it to you in terms of if there's any items that you wanted to discuss. I've got the handout that you had in front of you last night available as a slideshow. If we wanted to bring up any specific slides, questions about the policy questions, there's a lot of information and maybe you guys still just want to digest it, but you know, we're available. If you want to talk with me offline, I'm available to answer any of these. With that being said, you know, I'll leave it to you. I will say, be prepared as we gear up here. You know, I sent an email with like, hey, here's a summary of all the meetings. One wrinkle that I added in there, your November meeting is a different night for you. It's November 15th because of the holiday, but that's going to be a pretty important meeting for you. At that meeting is where you'll both be making the recommendation on the zoning language to the council. That's the same zoning language that we're going to discuss in our joint workshop with them on October 25th. So that's your opportunity to be making a formal action on that. That same meeting, we're going to utilize to have you be reviewing all the changes to your own subdivision regulations. And I dare say, even though the zoning stuff is pretty heady and there's a lot and it all flows downhill, but there's more content and changes being made to your subdivision regulations than there is to some of the zoning. So there'll be a lot of content for you to review. Now, I know this board is familiar with the nature of the changes, but you know, we'll be trying to give you good information so that as you head into that, if you have questions, the workshops are designed to be touching on these subjects so you understand where we're headed. But the 15th will be an important meeting for us for both the subdivision regulations. You are the authority. That's not a recommendation. You make changes to the subdivision regulations. And it'll be important for your advisory recommendation of the council. So I leave that. Any questions, any discussion you
Is
want
that
to?
our normal meeting for that month?
It is your standard normal
So
meeting.
that
It's just an
wouldn't be
odd
a
day.
joint meeting. That would just be a.
That's just the plan commission. And so your normal business, well, we might have other minor applications in front of us, but I envision a chunk of that night, November 15th. We're discussing the recommendation on the zoning changes and we're discussing the changes to your own subdivision regulations. And I'm trying to do this so that we're not waiting until the last moment in December, because if we see something that needs to change, we can change it. But I like to save the course corrections for the end. I'd like to take the big chunks. If we have them drafted, let's start digesting them now.
Those handouts that you gave us already have subdivision regulation changes, like we haven't seen.
No, most of the handouts that you had are talking about changes to zoning code. But for example, we talked about the TRC quite a bit. All that's going in the zoning code on TRC is just to authorize that it'll exist. A lot of the actual meat of what is this group? What are they doing? You know, what's the process to get in front of them? A lot of that's going to live in the regulations. And that's on purpose because there's certain things that need to get authorized in zoning. But then when it comes to, well, where's the details? Where's the meat of it? We want a lot of that in your regulations because that's where it's more appropriate. And it's easier for us to address and adjust if we need to. For example, let's just say 1 year in, we realize, you know what? The police need to be a sitting member at TRC. Now, I'm not saying that's the case, but let's just give an example. I'd rather come to you guys and say, we need to make that change. Let's advertise a subdivision regulation change. Let's make that change. I'd rather do that than have a zoning ordinance change that triggers a long advertisement period and a trip to the council. Some things are meant to be regulatory in nature. So all the things you're talking about and we're hearing, some of it lives in zoning, but a lot of it flows downhill and it'll live in regulations, if that makes sense.
The TRC is appropriate to have, was that gonna be like a 9-member panel? I mean, I would think the more geniuses, the better on that, or is that limited?
There's nothing in state law that limits it. My vision for it right now, the TRC is generally a staff made up panel. It's gonna be, I think, 2 members of planning staff. Essentially, I'll be acting as the administrative officer. When we get an application in front of us, they'll be making recommendations to me. Now, it's not a group that votes in the same format that you're used to. It's not like a TRC approves or denies something based on a popularity contest. Each individual member of the TRC, and we're talking about a principal planner who can bring up planning comments. We're talking about our engineer, DPW director, fire. I envision, a planning chair or a planning board representative being on there. And further details to discuss, but that would be the core of the group. They're going to make recommendations to the administrative officer on this is a project that's ready to go, or this is a project that's not. And the administrative officer has those recommendations to lean on when they ultimately have to decide if an application is approved or denied. That'll be the format, and we're doing it because we need to be transparent about the way we're going to handle these things. And that gives us a meeting that has minutes, that has formal, motions or formal recommendations that are made. That we can then leverage and say, this is a defendable decision because of the way that this was reviewed.
So does that meeting have to comply with OMA?
It'll be an interesting question. And I mean, David might weigh in, but my take on it is this. It's gonna be in open meetings because of the fact that we're gonna have agendas. They're gonna be publicly posted. We're dealing with official town business. It's a little unique because the members of that group are staff. Now, me and the engineer and the DPW director might need to have an exchange of emails about that project the day before, moments before. We're sort of in a different guise than you are, where you can't create an email chain between you. Well, staff have to email each other all the time about these projects, but the TRC gives us a public facing side of it. Public can attend. It'll be noticed. It'll be a meeting that there will be minutes. There will be a Secretary of State. It's only a little different in that, we're anticipating that we still have to talk about these items off of the meeting as well. I hope that answers that question.
The thing I like about that is, a lot of the vetting process, a lot of it won't come here. So it will be vetted, it'll be transparent, because you're not gonna have public hearings. So this is where the community can listen and respond, because you're really cutting out the public hearing.
We are cutting out public engagement opportunities on projects that I think are significant in scale. What's going to become an administrative review could be as busy as a 9-lot subdivision. Now, no street creation, so we're talking about a 9-lot subdivision where it's frontage lots. That's still a project of scale. That's gonna, neighbors are gonna be, noticing that. And I'd like to make sure that as, people are gaining information about what's happening, that they are aware that they can give comments, that there's a group that's gonna vet those. There's some unclarity here where it's, are we gonna turn this into the public can come and they're allowed to be treated as a hearing where they can speak? That's unclear. Most TRCs aren't that way. But if someone gives me a comment and I direct them that they can provide a written comment, I could read that into the record. We could have the whole group understand that and consider how that might affect our decision. People can attend the meeting. They can see exactly what happened, why it happened. So it's going to be an interesting line. I think that there's going to be communities around the state that are going to toy with, maybe we should turn these into little mini public hearings. That might be going too far, where you say, hey, the meeting, everyone that wants to speak can speak as much as they want. Let's keep in mind that that's not really the intent of a TRC, but I see this as being a vehicle to be transparent, to allow for there to be some opportunity for the public to engage in the process, even if it's not at the same scale that they are today.
Right, so if somebody sees an excavator in their backyard, I'll use the Western End for an example, because a lot of them are contentious. At least they know that it's gonna happen. But without that technical review committee, you could just okay it, 9-lot, which is now a major subdivision. And the people in the neighborhood don't have any idea what's going on. And all of a sudden the excavator comes and your phone's ringing off the hook. So I like the transparency of that.
Yep, and then we'll have to have a discussion about what's the right level of notice. Now, there's nothing in state law that suggests that a TRC agenda item should receive an abutter notice. That's gonna be a discussion point. Again, we have to be thoughtful that state law doesn't want us to turn a TRC into a mock public hearing. But I don't have a problem with some degree of transparency about what's happening. Now, transparency can be accomplished in a lot of ways. It can be accomplished by making sure our agendas are posted. It is possible to also, if we wanted to swallow the budget cost of that, every TRC agenda gets put in the paper. Now, it might be difficult for us to mandate or force that mailings go out when we're not in a position and the state law is not in a position to say that. In the same way that someone comes in for an administrative subdivision, which currently is just a lot line shift, like there's no abutter notice, but you know, we have to conduct our business anyway. Imagine that lot line shift, that scale of review is now being given to us for a 9-lot subdivision, and we have to just do our best with that.
I'm good. I mean, clear as mud, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is the state law is there's gonna be a lot of appeals. There's gonna be a lot of new case law created in the next few years.
How soon will we get documents to review for the November 15th meeting?
It's a good
Hopefully sooner than
question.
later.
That's a good question.
I'm just, even if it comes piecemeal,
Yeah,
I think the earlier the better, and we'll leave it at that. I'm not gonna look for you to commit right now,
Yeah.
but. keep
it's
it in
it's an excellent question. I can tell you that the joint work session that we're gonna have in October, we're still shooting for the same date that we talked about, October 24th. That's with the council at their regular meeting. I want to give the council an opportunity to reflect on the fact that, remember how busy we were last night? Remember how we were crunched for time and you had an agenda to get to? Imagine how much busier we'll be when we have code in hand and we're talking about the meat of the code. And I want to give them an opportunity to say, would you rather do this offline, perhaps on a night where it's just specialized between the three groups? And that's all.
Last
But-
night was.
This is at still, you know, to some degree, we're working at the pleasure with the council. They're learning about the project. They wanted to utilize their regular meeting nights to ensure that they have the good attendance. I'm gonna ask them if that's still their pleasure for that night, and if it is, we'll do the best we can. Now that night, you're gonna get a good flavor for what's coming. Now, I can't promise you you're gonna have drafted subdivision regulations, but we'll certainly have drafted zoning code. And at that point, I think we'll have the consultant starting to focus on drafting those subdivision regulations. And we'll get those as quickly as we can after, but it's a lot to swallow, and I don't want to give you a full, here's 50 pages of subdivision changes for you. Can you review this in 5 days? I would prefer not to do that. But you're right, there might be pieces of this that we give you a product in advance and say there might be a few tweaks to this that are coming before you. This consultant, we're gonna push them. And you've seen them, they're good, but they have a lot of work to do in a short amount of time to do it. So we'll push them, but we want to be getting a good product at the end of the day, not necessarily a rush product, if that makes sense.
Saying that, also along those lines is having a joint night with town council, a separate night where it's just council and boards without a council agenda pushing the meeting might be a benefit to them. Because they need to understand it rather than just trying to push us out the door. And then all of a sudden they get phone calls from their district saying, they're doing this. And then they come to you and say, well, it was in that meeting, but shove us out the door. We're trying to spoon feed it so you understand it, but you can't,
If you think about the sense of shock and awe that is occurring, these are significant changes to state law. I mean, these are the most significant changes to state law in terms of land use changes that have happened. And I mean, the solicitor last night said in generations, I've only been a planner in the state for 15 years. It's the most I've seen, but like longstanding planners are like, this is a major shift. So there is shock and awe. And I agree, when we have the details on how we're going to address that, I think we need more time than we had last night. And we felt like we were at the max that they could tolerate last night. Now I'll see if I'm going to ask the manager and see if he wants to take the temperature of the council on potentially considering a different night, and we could do that. We'll see where that goes.
I think the council gets it. I know Councilwoman Shockley had said that this looks like it's being put on the fast track. Well, that's exactly what this is for. This is to stop the things that take 2 to 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
And this is what the state is pushing upon us. We can put some things in the way so we can get the transparency. But I think the state is basically saying, hey, listen, we're tired of hearing
Yep.
that these projects take so long and you got to go to this step A, step B, step C. Why not just do it all at step A?
Yep.
So I think the council gets it. I know there was a lot of fear on their faces
Yep.
because we have the most land mass in the state. And I think it's not gonna benefit the town.
I'll put it to you this way, coming to Coventry as an outsider, but knowing a few people and asking their opinion of what it would be like to be a planner in Coventry, a lot of people said, yeah, there's going to be a lot of growth in Coventry. That's because there's available land. I think we're in the proximity to jobs and resources where we're kind of in that next wave of growth, kind of that beyond the Warwick, Cranston line. I think that this particular set of code changes, I think it really affects Coventry because we've got a lot of land and there's a lot of frontage lots. And there's a lot of land that could be eaten with these really easy streamlined subdivisions. I think we'll see a fast pace of growth in Coventry because of that. And there's parts of that, that's not going to be popular. And so, but we have to do the best we can, and that's all we can do. We're dealt the hand we've got. The last point I'll make is that, it's pretty clear that the direction of the council last night is let's play defense. We're not going to give up an inch where we don't have to. Let's keep the code tight. Let's keep the bars high. In general, that's my approach too. And the only thing I'll mention is that, we do have a section in those policy considerations on what waivers should an administrative officer be able to apply when something's in a administrative review. And I did suggest that I think when you look at sidewalks and curbing and street trees, that those are appropriate. Now, I could see that being a discussion point with the council and saying, why would we give that away? Why wouldn't we just take anyone that wants a sidewalk waiver and bump them up to the board? And the truth is that could have some unintended consequences, like a developer saying, you know what I'd rather do? I'd rather build you a block of a sidewalk you don't want with a curb you don't want than be, considered a project that might go to the board and I have a risk I don't want to take. There's a couple approaches to that. One is that we could rewrite our code to say that sidewalks and curbing would not be required unless there's certain criteria that are met, or we leave it as they're required and that we waive them, but that the waivers can be made based on, clear and obvious discretional choices by the administrative officer. We'll see how we handle that. That's a good example where, we don't want to give an inch. We want to hold the bar high, but we don't want to be, we want to be smart about that. And we don't want to say, oh, every single waiver will kick something to the board, because we will be up against lawsuits if we basically have a criteria where we basically find a way to loophole it, kick everything to the board. We'll be up against lawsuits if that's the case. We have to be smart about some of the way we handle that discretion. So I just want to be clear about some of those points with you up front. That's something that I could see the council being not quite clear on, having discussions about. In the end, that's the kind of decision that lives in your regulations. Our zoning code isn't going to talk about appropriate waivers. That's our subdivision regulations. So, that'll be in your your decision-making criteria. I think the council wants to know where we're headed, but that's not something that they will in the end affect in terms of change. That'll be something in front of you.
Doug, it seemed like there was something they were trying to expedite this comp plan, but it has no bearing in it, right? Let's get this comp plan before, January or something like that. I play the fool and I always, cite the comp plan, but it gets shut down. So is there any advantage to having this comp plan? It seems like it would be our last, it's like a line of defense, so to speak, to be on the defensive to protect certain areas, but is it useless?
No, the comp plan is not useless. So the way to think about a comp plan is that a comp plan is evergreen. You adopt a comp plan locally, that's your comp plan. It doesn't, and our comp plan, I think, is like 24 years old. That comp plan is evergreen, except the new state law has said that if your comp plan is over a certain amount of age old, it might have been 12 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Then it can't be used as the sole reason to deny a project. Now, that doesn't mean that the comp plan lost its teeth.
Okay.
It just means that if your goal is to deny a project and your one finding that you have in all the required findings is this project meets all of our criteria. It's a special use permit and it even meets all the special use permit criteria. But the one thing we got is the comp plan doesn't like it. Then you can't use that comp plan as your one deniability. Now, I will say this, we just got comments back from the state on our plan. It is going to need a little bit of work. It will take some time to work through that. And then also, I don't want to rush a comp plan through your meetings. Can you imagine trying to take November and saying, guys, do you mind also just approving the comp plan while we're at it? You know, there's a lot to do before January 1. And we do want to get moving on the comp plan. I don't want to let that linger if we don't need to. But that'll take perhaps a couple of meetings to work through. You know, that's a big document. You guys understand when we make recommendations, how we rely on that document. Well, what's going in there is basically still the foundation of how we make land use decisions. So we want to get it right. And I want to give you time to digest it all, but I don't want to be, you know, worried. You know, March 1st, March is a deadline that we should keep in mind, but it's not like a heads on fire deadline. If we don't have our comp plan adopted by March, this is a problem. We should get it right. But we don't, you know, we should be thoughtful about doing it the right way. That deadline is not as urgent in my mind. Now, all of the code stuff, if we hit January 1 and our code wasn't in place, I would be worried about having a developer give me something and saying, since your code is silent on this, I get to make the rules. And that's why I think by January 1, our code needs to be right. If the comp plan is not right until, let's say, the late spring or the summer, we're still in okay shape here. Exactly. Most of the project that we would wish to deny, I would think that, you know, we've got a lot of reasons to deny them. I think that state law was put in there because there are boards and commissions across the state that, you know, there's projects that might be solid projects, but then they're interested in really kind of pushing the needle on what they can deny. And that's where the comp plan comes into play. You could have a by right subdivision. It's in front of you. It meets all the zoning requirements. And there's boards that'll say, I'm denying it on the comp plan.
Can't do it.
And they're trying to remove that ability. Now, this board, I don't think is that same genre of board where we want to deny a by right project and we want to find a way to scrap up a comp plan.
Like the rural integrity.
Yeah,
that
you
would be a
understand it.
finding
I
fact.
think you guys, yeah. So that's where the comp plan comes into play on all this.
We're just fun. We're just having some fun. That's all.
All right.
But
Any
thank
other
you.
thoughts or questions on any of that?
No.
I'll keep you guys in the loop. If we have any changes to meetings, you'll definitely
And
be the
anybody wants
first.
their email fired up, I believe Cody can do that tonight. I mean,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna come in because I have the time to come in.
Cody, you still want to do it tonight?
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yep. Yep. You get a free email account. It's on the town.
Any,
Don't worry. No,
Okay,
it's-
is there any public comment? Cody, anybody on Zoom? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. A motion by Mr. Smith, second by everybody. All those in favor? Aye.